Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is episode 195. My name's Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. This week I'm talking to Tracey and Leah, a mother and daughter living near Philadelphia who both have misophonia. In fact, Leah attends the same school Tracey teaches at. We talk about their first triggers and how they were received across the decades. We talk about how Tracey's misophonia informs how she helps her daughter. Tracey also shares how Buddhism has helped her, and Leah talks about accommodations she gets at school. Finally, we spent some time at the end talking a little more philosophically about what we think about misophonia, how we think about misophonia is a medical defect or a trait with a message. I do just want to point out that was being recorded outdoors, so you'll hear some birds chirping and very occasionally a low rumble here and there. After the show, let me know what you think. You can reach out by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or hit me up on Instagram or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast. By the way, please do head over and leave a quick rating or review wherever you listen to the show, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. It helps drive us up in the algorithms, which helps us reach more misophones. A few of my usual announcements. Thanks for the incredible ongoing support of our Patreon supporters. If you feel like contributing, you can read all about the various levels at patreon.com/misophonia podcast. This episode is also sponsored by the personal journaling app Basil, B-A-S-A-L, that I developed. Basil provides AI-powered insights into your journal entries and guides you with new writing prompts every day based on those insights. You can even explore many different therapy approaches and modalities. It's available on iOS and Android. Check the show notes or go to hellobasil.com. All right, now here's my conversation with Tracey and Leah. Tracey and Leah, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you
Cool.
for having us.
Yeah. So do you want to, just tell us kind of around where you're located?
Sure. Do you want to say where we are?
We are in Pennsylvania.
Jenkintown.
Jenkintown, cool.
Yeah.
Which is right outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Right on. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. So let's see. I mean, we have Tracey and Leah here. Do you want to kind of tell us kind of like what brought you both to the podcast? Like who's got misophonia, and just kind of like we'll get into everyone's stories.
Okay.
Well, we both have misophonia, and I don't know. How did you find the podcast?
I think I just Googled it and saw that, wow, there's a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And we started listening to it on our drives to school because Leah goes to my school. I teach at a Quaker school in Philadelphia. And so that's how we found the podcast. And as Leah said, we both have misophonia. I've noticed that Leah's misophonia has gotten like a lot stronger over the last year.
Yeah.
It's becoming much more of an intrusion on her life.
Yeah, and Tracey, you have misophonia as well. We were just
I have
about,
misophonia as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe we want to talk. Maybe we can go in reverse chronological. I guess maybe talk a little about Leah. Leah, when did you first start noticing misophonia?
I think it was like when we were up at my mom's house. This one time, she was eating cereal across the table from me, and I just couldn't handle it. It for some reason, I just thought everyone was a bit annoyed by chewing, and I was just a little bit more than other people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that other just chewing just didn't really bother people. And then it didn't really bother me for a while. And then I went to school, and I have this friend. This is a different school than the one my mom teaches at. And her chewing, I just could not. I would ask her to chew with her mouth closed, and she just didn't understand.
And she was one of Leah's best friends.
Yeah. And that was really hard because I couldn't escape that. And Yeah, and then it just like progressively started getting worse. And every day when I got up for school in the morning, my brother, he would like we would eat breakfast at the same time, and I would always like bring a blanket down and like put it over my head to like hide from the sounds and like the visual trigger of him eating.
Right. This is sort of before I picked up that this was happening.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I just like
okay.
kind of like put my head down. Sometimes I would like put the cereal box right in front of him so I couldn't see him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's funny. I used to do that too. Now that I recall, with my
yeah,
when my brother was eating sick, but I don't remember if it was due to sounds or other things. That's interesting.
I know.
Uh,
I just like, yeah,
did your you said your mom, seems like your grandma, a name for
yeah.
your grandma. Did that happen kind of overnight on one of the trips, kind of thing? Or was it like not a big deal? Then all of a sudden, one time,
Yeah, it just like I don't know. I just like sat down for breakfast one morning, and it was like,
yeah.
why is everyone chewing so loud?
Was anything kind of going on unusual or about that
I
weekend or
don't
week? Or,
think so.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that was, my mom has dementia, so
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
um, so there was a period where my dad had died, and then she was living alone, and we were going up there a lot to
Mm-hmm.
kind of try and take, and it's pretty stressful because we'd go up and
yeah,
there would be all manner of
Right.
messes, and it was kind of a disaster. So
mhm,
maybe that was also in the
yeah,
background.
Yeah,
um,
it's just I just ask because there's often something going on unusual. Um, Interesting. Yeah, just an interesting data point. And then yeah, then it just started to progress. So Tracy, you said you said I mean you have misophonia. You didn't pick up on this. Was it just you didn't notice it? I was going to ask like were you as a misophone were you maybe looking out for some of this
yeah,
potentially?
like of course hoped my kids wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
And actually for me, uh you know also I was always worried that like maybe my kids would become a trigger.
Yeah.
um and
Right.
unfortunately, uh her brother, his chewing bothers me too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
I feel
so,
so bad about that.
and
Like,
I feel terrible about it, like, and it didn't bother me until, I don't know, last couple of years maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't usually when they're first born and then
When they're
when
little. It was
yeah.
more when he was like, you know I don't know, maybe teenager.
yeah, I think
Mhm.
your brain just like kind of knows it's not a threat. Like when
Yeah.
you first meet someone, usually they're not triggering to me
Hmm.
because like it's like you just met them. Can you like give me a break for like a
Yeah.
little bit? And then like when I first came to the new school, no one really triggered me at first, but then like after like a month or so, probably a little bit less than that, they started triggering me like a lot.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Um and so I guess maybe Leah, for how long has it been then since you've had Miss Funny because you're still in school and
Oh, I don't know. When do you
Yeah.
think?
um I don't know that the incidents that, like, Leah with the friend, I think that was like around was that after COVID, that when you went back,
That yeah.
or was
No,
it
wait.
pre-COVID?
That was like
So that would have been third grade.
third grade. Yeah.
mm, so
Yeah.
around 8 or
And
so.
Leah's currently a seventh grader, so that's,
Yeah. So,
Gotcha. Okay. That's
and
a
the
few years.
incident with my mom would have been earlier than that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I don't
that would
know.
have
Probably
been,
like
yeah, that might have been like second grade.
Gotcha. Okay. And then
Yeah.
you did mention visual triggers as well, so it seems like they
yeah.
kind of came on also pretty quick.
Yeah. And she's added triggers because it's a lot of the classics. I mean, like, now that I
The
see what
greatest hits.
other
Yeah.
people, I'm like, oh yeah,
It,
I've got
yeah.
this. I'm not very creative. I have the same triggers that everybody else has.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
COVID was hard for me because like I think my mom is a teacher, so she would be on Zoom and like teaching her class, and she would be in this room, and I would be up in my room doing my work, I think, and I could like hear kind of what she was saying, but like not quite, and it was like kind of distorted. That like set me off. I could not listen to that.
The kind of muffling that you hear through
Like
floors and
muffling, like
walls.
voices.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I would like try to shut all the doors and like cover
And
my ears.
we had again like Leah in her room, Callum in his room. Dad was sometimes here in the bedroom, and I was out here. So yeah, there's no escape.
Yeah, right. Yeah, COVID was interesting. That's kind of the last thing you want to get just before COVID is noticing misophonia. Okay, interesting. And I guess how are your other with your brother and your other family members who don't have misophonia kind of reacting? Like, how do they treat it?
Yeah, like we went to a restaurant a couple days back, and like usually usually so when we eat at home, like we all sit on the couch and
in a line.
we in a line. My dad's chewing does not trigger me. I don't know why, just like it doesn't trigger me. So I usually sit next to my dad. Like we all have like spots, squares on the couch, and yeah, we eat with like the volume up, and if there's like a quiet moment or like it stops for a second, we pause it, everyone like stops eating.
Yeah, we have a saying, no sound, forks down.
Yeah.
Hey, no sound, forks down.
It works
Okay,
pretty well,
I like that.
And
so we don't start eating until like the TV's on and the sound is up. So we have like background noise.
Okay. And everyone in the line on this. Okay. So they're at least, it sounds like they're at least understanding and accommodating.
Yeah. And we went to a restaurant, like what I was just saying a couple like weeks ago. And like I was being like triggered because like it wasn't that loud there, and like we had like our extended family there, and I don't think they know about I don't think
they do now. And actually, but it's interesting because like Pop Up and Terry, like they were all like kind of like, oh yeah, like, which makes me wonder if they might have some like variation on misophonia.
But I was sitting next to my dad, and actually my great uncle got me a sound machine. Anyways, but he was like trying to distract me with like he was playing a fan noise, and we were playing like Mastermind on his phone, and it got like really bad, so we like just got up and like took a walk outside of the restaurant, and that was nice just to like to get away for a while. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And and Tracy, maybe do you want to go back to kind of like when you first noticed it? I'm assuming, was it around childhood?
Yeah.
I mean, you did say earlier, I think.
So for me, because I didn't know it was a thing. I had a lot of theories to explain, but for me, like it definitely emerged around like third, fourth grade, and it was at the dinner table. It was like my sister's chewing and my dad's chewing and my mom's breathing. So mom loud breathing and my dad and my sister, loud chewing. And but also around that time, my sister has an eating disorder. So the dinner table was also kind of like a battleground. There was also like there was always like a lot of conflict because they'd be trying to get my sister to eat and she wouldn't eat, and it was like a thing. So there was a lot of like kind of drama around like eating. So it like made sense to me that was a thing. But then at school, like in fourth grade, I distinctly remember this, like David Keller, still remember his name, sat behind me and sniffled like
David, that's such a David thing to do.
right. And yeah, and so I just, I was like, what the heck? I thought this was just because, because of how horrible eating is right
Hmm.
now for everybody. But then like the sniffle, um, and then like I had another friend who was sitting in a squeaky chair, and like the squeaky chair and the sniff like was like killing me.
Yeah, it's somewhat generalized. That's interesting. I mean, your initial theory kind of, yeah, that makes sense on the trauma drama, which another meme I want to borrow. but but yeah, it's funny how, well, not funny, but it's interesting how it just seems to generalize to
Yeah.
a lot of things that you get into fight. I'm assuming it's like you had the fight or flight danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'd want to kill them.
yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
I
I
know.
want to turn
I
around
want to
and
kill David too for no.
put tissue up your
Sorry,
nose.
David. Yeah.
I didn't do that. So, but the other thing with me, and I think with a lot of misophones, it seems like I also knew it was like totally irrational.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't really feel like I could, say to David Keller, because the poor guy was congested, like
Right.
at whatever, so I didn't really feel like I could, really ask him to not sniffle because I
Yeah.
knew he couldn't not
Right.
do that. So I like, uh, and it also seemed totally irrational to be so angry about sniffling. So
Right.
I thought something's wrong. Something is obviously wrong with me. Um,
Well, that's interesting. You didn't feel like, because a lot of us, well, it's interesting that you at that age were able to rationalize that it's not his fault, because sometimes we have this part of the back of our mind is like they're doing it on purpose kind of thing.
uh,
Um, but but that's interesting that, yeah, you caught that at an early age.
yeah,
We're able to rationalize that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for better or for worse, though, because it also, I think, like maybe it was compounded by the fact that I never felt um, like I had the ability to speak up or ask for someone to stop doing something.
Uh-huh.
So I also my bedroom was right above the living room, so like the muffled sound of the TV
Yep.
would drive me nuts. I like developed a way of sleeping, holding my, I'd sleep, lay on my back, and I'd hold my ears and be able to go to sleep that way. Because again, I was like, it's irrational. I can't,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't feel like able to like go downstairs and say, could you turn the TV down?
Gotcha.
So,
And was it just because of was that the only kind of issue that you weren't able to, that you felt like you weren't able to get accommodations for, or like in general, where was your family, pretty open to to feedback, but
um,
this was maybe the
I
one
don't know,
thing, or
like like I said, that like that time period, and
oh,
my parents were like lovely people, but they're pretty volatile.
mm-hmm,
Um, and you know, uh, yeah, and like everything was really like my sister was such a like so in crisis that I
yeah,
felt, and like it just felt like, like there's a fire going on because my sister was like severely anorexic at this
yeah,
point.
yeah,
So she's like, 5'7", 80 pounds.
gotcha,
Like my little noise thing just seemed kind of like
yeah,
kind of a minor issue compared to like the much bigger fire that was going on.
gotcha. Yeah, and okay. And so you kind of bottled it up, and it just every night was probably kind of torture listening to um, the TV and whatnot. Um, and for you as well, like visual triggers, were they kind of like popping up too?
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit, like so. Yeah, like I didn't have to hear them if I saw them chewing. I like just like couldn't watch.
yeah. What about
Yeah,
friends? Did you tell? Confide with anybody? Like you can tell at home, but
not
not really.
really.
Yeah,
No, not not until like much later. Not until like later in life. Um, I can't even remember if I like told people in high school.
mm-hmm.
In college, yes,
What
but
did you tell them? Because you didn't know what it was at that point, which
I
is
didn't. Yeah,
sensitive.
yeah. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know what it was, but like, so I don't know. Like the one thing I remember. So when I was in college, uh, there was a day like my mom and her aunt had been downtown. Like I went to school in Philly, and they had come downtown for something, and we were hanging out, and we were like, I don't know, like on this tour and like this church, and it was like quiet, and my mom's like chewing gum, and oh my god, it was like a
Yeah.
disaster. Um, and then I went back home. They went back home. But on my way home, I ran into these women who invited me to a Buddhist meeting,
Yes,
and
it'd be a good
and
story.
right, and I went, and uh, at the Buddhist meeting, they were saying that like Buddhist practice was about developing a happy state of life, no matter what your circumstances are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, so I thought, because like as I was like being triggered, I was like, I don't know what I want in life. I just know that I want to be happy. So anyway, these people said that this is how to be happy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a
Yeah.
try. Um, and so I decided to try practicing Buddhism, which involves chanting. So it's not silent, which I think probably wouldn't work for me because I'd be sitting there like being triggered by,
Yeah.
by noises, but it's chanting, so you're like actively
So
making
if like
sound.
someone's like sniffling, you just chant louder.
Chant louder. Exactly.
Just
So
make sure the chant's not shut up.
right,
Yeah,
That's usually our chant.
right.
definitely.
Yeah. But anyway, so like I like became a Buddhist as
Yeah.
having pretty much decided I was an atheist. I
Yeah.
overnight decided to become a
It's an
Buddhist.
atheist religion, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it works.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have had like an altar in my room. I lived in a big house with like a lot of people, which was another thing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. We'll get to that later.
Ironic, like fortunately, like there was one bedroom on the first floor, and all the other rooms were on the second and third floor, and I was in a kind of like isolated.
Okay.
It was perfect actually.
Yeah.
So that worked out well. But anyway, I had this altar, and this friend that I had met like came into my room for something and was like, "Wow," and he immediately asked like, "What what what made you decide? That seems like kind of a drastic move. What made you decide to do that?" And so I told him about my misophonia.
Mm.
That was Michael of Michael and Paris. And actually, I think Michael also, just recently in the last few months or whatever, I finally put it together that Michael also has misophonia.
Wow. Okay.
But he didn't say that at the time, and at the time, like it didn't occur to me that this was a thing.
Yeah.
So we didn't really like, oh, I have that too. But like he definitely has that too. Um,
Interesting. Okay. And so so I'm curious, kind of like you can converted, or you start practicing Buddhism. Did it help with misophonia? Well, like,
it actually it did.
yeah.
And in fact, I think quite a bit because I think it like really changed the trajectory of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because and at the time though, I was disappointed because I was hoping I was gonna like chant, like the mantra thing,
Yeah.
and I would not have misophonia anymore. But that it didn't work that way.
Yeah.
Um,
So do you use it when you're being triggered to kind of like redirect your thoughts or something? Or
I do, and
Mhm.
I also just because like the practice, I chant, usually twice a day, like in the
Mhm.
morning and then again at night before I go to bed, and I find that if I do that, like it helps me just be more grounded, so that
Yeah.
when I'm assailed by sounds, the sounds are the same, but I can respond differently.
Can I ask, like, how long do you chant for? Is it a mantra, that
Yeah.
the same
um,
mantra morning and evening?
Yeah, so it's the same, like we chant, the phrase is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo,
Mhm.
and then we also do a recitation from the Lotus Sutra. Um, and that can be, I can chant anywhere from, like 5 minutes to, hours.
Yeah.
But depending on like what is happening in my life and whatnot. Usually I try and chant, like, I don't know, about a half hour in the morning, a half hour at the end of the day is sort of my steady state.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. And Leah, have you has this passed on to you a little bit? Are you
Yeah,
also?
yeah. I,
Yeah.
it does help to like to just be able to like, you know. And we also go to like Buddhist meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I help out there as much as I can.
No, that's great. I mean, because I'm 47. I just found out about. Well, I knew about misophonia, but I just found out about things like the nervous system and how important it is to just calm that down. I didn't even know what the heck it was. So I've been looking to try to, establish a meditation practice or something. So this is kind of inspiring because yeah, I mean, whatever I feel like can give you control over your nervous system, and I think awareness of your senses is is gonna help, because I think a lot of this is just your nervous system just being overactive, but also I think feel like some kind of dissociation with our senses. And I don't think hearing like misophonia, the sound part, is the only thing. I think it's something else that is much more multisensory. So I think it's great what you're doing. It's great that it's helping. It seems to be helping a little bit, but maybe not 100%. Like there's obviously still misophonia going on.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
for both,
Yeah.
for both of us.
Do you feel like it at least kind of gets you back to you know how sometimes when we're completely caught off guard and triggered, it takes us like hours, sometimes days, to get back to norm. Does it help you in that recovery? Because even that's valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like I feel like I feel like I no longer have that, like that's something I feel like I don't have anymore, is that lingering.
Yes.
It's like if I can remove myself from the situation,
Yeah, it
I'm
can just
good.
like ruin your day.
Right.
Like,
And
or
sometimes,
just like taking a deep breath. Like we
Mm-hmm.
went to like this like color day thing at my old school today, and this guy, I don't even know like what he was doing, but he was just like triggering me with like a mouth sound.
Was
I
it David again? No, just kidding. No.
It might have been.
Haunting your family.
And then he was like sitting next to me and my brother, and then these other people came with like these like pastries, and they sat at the other side of me, and I was just like,
oh no.
then me and Cal moved, so it was okay. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And Leah, how about in school? Do you get any kind of accommodations?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For testing, I take tests in a different room, and I just wear earplugs the entire day at school. Like I
Oh,
can't.
gotcha. Yeah.
Like one time I forgot one of my earplugs. Complete like
Panic.
panic. Like I didn't know what I was gonna do. But then I found my friend at school. I think she has something like misophonia because she also gets like triggered.
Right. And it also happened to be carrying earplugs, which is
Yeah.
unusual.
Also, we always like complain about like we have like code words for someone's triggering me, and like.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this guy in particular triggers a lot.
Michael. Yeah.
So earplugs are good enough for you, because I mean you could probably still hear some triggers, right?
Yeah, I can. So yeah, he sits next to me in some classes and sits behind me, which is really bad. But I sent an email to my teachers about it, like explaining this. I don't think my math teacher really gets it, but I don't think he needs to. I think he just needs to move me to where I need to be. But yeah, he did that, and that's good. And yeah, like
And your homeroom teacher and science teacher has been really,
she's been really accommodating
yeah.
for me. Yeah.
How about for other friends?
So,
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, in theory, also, like Leah, like I just fairly recently, because I was like, gosh, um, it's great, like that during tests, Leah can take it in a quiet room. but like, it doesn't help like during lectures if you have to like have earplugs in, hold your
Right.
ears, whatever. Or leaving the room isn't the answer either, because then you miss everything that then So, but I felt like a lot could be, just knowing you can move. I think like knowing, in terms of the
Like just having
fight or
like
flight, I think like
control
knowing that you have a
makes
little
it
bit
feel
of
like so
control.
much
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
And we go to a Quaker school, so there's something called meeting for worship,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
kind of a nightmare
It's a
sometimes.
misophone's nightmare.
Yeah, it's so everyone, like pretty much everyone sits in this echoey room and it has to be completely silent the entire time.
It never is.
Yeah, except for
It's
all the
not.
trigger
Right.
sounds.
Yeah, yeah.
They say it's completely silent, but it's not. Like,
Yeah.
They
Sniffling,
think it's right.
throat
Yeah.
clearing, everything.
Yeah. Oh, those are all my greatest
there's that
hits.
one
Yeah.
person that's sitting behind you and like sniffling or chewing gum or like something.
Wait, so they let people chew gum?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They let people eat in class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Faster.
Yeah,
Like,
that's nuts.
I was sitting in my math classroom this one time, and some girl was like giving out gum, and she had like a cupcake and like strawberries, and she was just like smacking her lips, and I was like, "Can I go to the bathroom, please?"
Yeah.
And Tracy, is this the school that you're a teacher at?
Yeah.
Are you able to kind of like
So so I have been
put the
advocating
kibosh on?
like with her
Yeah.
homeroom teacher who's the advisor. So I'm not in the same division as Leah because I teach in the upper school. She's in the middle school.
Mhm.
But I have like talked to the school psychologist. I've also talked to the person in charge of the accommodations, which we put the quiet room in place. Also, so in her learning plan is something that says she can like get up and move if she
Yeah.
needs to like the back of the room or sometimes I think having the sound right behind you is like the worst, I think.
Yeah.
So there's some ability to like move around. The problem is there's also a lot of, I don't know, some classes you do some like small group work.
Yeah.
And then if you're paired with the sniffler, that's really rough.
Yeah. She was telling me that we were going into like a robotics project and it was going to be like really loud, and she was wondering if I was going to be okay. But like that's kind of better if everything is like going on and like everyone's talking, because then you can't really hear it, and that's like better.
Yeah, get that robot's motors going and get that background noise.
Yeah. And it's also really hard because the person that's the most triggering for me is in all my classes, my homeroom. Yeah. So but my art class is like, I try to get my teacher to play music, but then like because like he can play music, he sometimes plays music for us, and I ask him if he can play music, or my friend asked him if he can play music, and like he plays music for a little bit, but then it like just like goes off for some reason. Like
he plays one song.
Yeah, like one song, and we're like, you're gonna play another?
Yeah.
But then like one time, like it was just so bad, and like we asked if we could just like stand outside the classroom for a minute and like collect ourselves, because she has something that's like kind of like misophonia. I don't know. We complain.
Your friend, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the rest of my friends, no. Like when I told them about it, they were kind of like awkward about it, and like, oh, and then they like kind of just like forgot about it. But like I didn't expect them to really like take to it, and every time I say it, they always like, oh, you mean like this, and then like make
You're right. Yeah, they start to make the sound. Yeah.
Yes, like that.
Yeah, we got to work on that society. But
and like every lunchtime, like I sit down. I try to be the last person to sit down, just like to be able to
So you can strategically position yourself.
Yeah, there's always like the one person that like.
Or you just kind of hover between tables, and then you don't really have to sit down.
Actually, our school doesn't have a cafeteria, so we sit outside or like an art room. Recently, we've been sitting outside because it's like nicer weather, so it's quieter. And we sit on this little ledge, and then my friends, I think some of them like to hear themselves chew. So they.
Yeah, I've wondered that as well. I feel like for some people, I feel like it's part of the experience of eating for something or something like that. I don't know, but maybe that's my misophonia brain.
Yeah, maybe that's just like my misophonia brain being like, oh, they're doing this to annoy you.
Right.
I don't know, but yeah, I try to like I love her, but like I try to like not sit near her when she's eating because I think she likes that sound. And I've told some of my other friends in like classes, and she tries. She's a sniffler, so she tries to stop sniffling for me, and that's really great. And I told my other friend, and she was like, "Wow, you wear earplugs? That's so cool." I'm like,
okay.
but okay.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And you said, Tracey, you said at this school there's a psychologist. Did the psychologist know about misophonia at all? Or?
She does now.
Yeah. You locked her up in a room, and
she did not. She did not really know much about it. But she did send me, like, she reached out to someone, and like that's how I found out about the So Quiet thing. So she sent me a lot of resources, and actually, Leah was supposed to have like a therapy check-in appointment, but we had to cancel it because of the stomach bug. But she has a first therapy appointment next Wednesday. The person is not doesn't specifically work with misophonia, but it's really, I haven't really found anyone locally who does. And the person does, like, Leah is a really artistic. She's does a lot of like visual art stuff. And the person works with expression and
art therapy.
Art. Yeah. So I thought, and she works with children through adolescence. So so, and she also said that, if this isn't working, like, we'll start here. And she referred to someone else in her practice who does DBT, which
it's a variation of CBT, I believe. Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, we're at least like starting to try and get Leah some help.
Gotcha.
And yeah. So because I feel urgency about this, but kind of like where to go, where to find help. Like I'm encouraged by how many people are, like the research community seems like research is like sort of taking off on misophonia. So that's encouraging. But it's hard to get like some immediate therapy / relief. And yeah, so we're looking for that. I wanted to say I was really encouraged, and it made me think that, perhaps Leah and I can do something at my school, like Paige and her dad.
Oh yeah. That was super
you had
cool.
a guest on, and I don't know from what year, because we're not necessarily listening to things in sequence, but you had a guest on who was also, I think, in like middle school or high school, who had
that kind of inspired us to go on the podcast. I think.
Yeah, there's been quite a few who are right in school.
I remember like specifically that she had like a speech, and her dad was like underneath the bleachers because he was a visual trigger to her.
Yeah, which that was also because one of the things, like, I've been misophonic most of my life, but I've never been on the other side of it, like as the trigger, because like I know I trigger Leah, and sometimes it makes me angry. I'm like, but I know, like I know just the
Oh, I
same as
see.
I know it's like not rational. I shouldn't. It's not personal, right? It's not like she hates me. She hates like the sound I'm making.
Right. Yeah, that's good. At least you have the perspective because yeah, most people immediately will get defensive because
Mhm.
they're supposedly not making a unusual sound.
Right.
No, that's cool. Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear kind of what happens because you're right. With a therapist because most of them, if they exist, they're all booked up because the demand for
Right,
misophonia
because we did
therapy.
reach out to somebody who said that
Hmm.
they work with misophonia patients, but
They're
they
buffed.
did not respond. They were like, "Yeah, we have a waiting list."
Yes, yeah, there tends to be a big waiting list. Unfortunately, hopefully that'll change with more awareness
Mhm.
and research. Although the research is going to take time, and
Right. Yeah.
it's I don't know, I don't know, in my opinion, it's a little bit too incremental. But
Right.
that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
Um, what about other? We don't have to get into them because a lot of us have like overlapping conditions. I'm kind of curious if either of you have noticed anything like, a lot of people have ADHD and things like that.
My friend, she lives like, oh right, my neighbors,
Mhm.
like they're probably like I've known them forever, and like, yeah, but they pretty much get it. Um, yeah, like they're very accommodating for me, and my one friend's a sniffler, but she does this. I noticed like if she sighs right after she sniffles, it makes my brain think that she's sighing, not sniffling.
Mm.
So that helps a
Oh,
lot.
so she disguises the sound.
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
I know. It's so nice of her. And also, like, whenever she's eating, she'll, like, go in another room for me. It's really nice. And, yeah. But anyways,
Yeah, but your question about
yeah, other.
ADHD or OCD, not
My,
that
my
we
friend,
know of.
yeah, that
Yeah.
friend was, like, recently,
But he's asking about you, like.
diagnosed with, I know,
Okay, sorry.
with OCD.
It's all good. It's all good. It's whatever you want to get around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was diagnosed with like OCD, and she was like talking about it, and I think it like related a lot to me,
Who?
Emily.
Oh, Emily.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, like it
okay.
related a lot to me. So I was like, oh, yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. What you did say earlier about how you said your friend was disguising a sound with a sigh, because that is part of some research and some therapies is to try to
Yeah,
um, think, try to attach a different source to the sound
yeah.
in your
Like
head. But
when
it
you
sounds like your friend was doing it on
sigh,
purpose. That's kind of cool.
yeah. Like when she like when you sigh, you breathe in and then you breathe out. So she breathes in but sniffles at the same time, kind of,
Uh-huh,
and
uh-huh.
then she breathes out. Yeah.
We'll have to
So
get her to do a tutorial on YouTube or something
Yeah,
to
right.
train people. Get train David. Um,
yeah, train David
And Michael.
and Michael. Yeah.
yeah, and Michael. Interesting. Tracy, we were so listen, like you use earplugs. What about coping methods for you when you're out in the world?
Yeah. So uh, I'm I'm a teacher,
Oh
um,
yes, so
and
that's another thing I was going to
so it's
ask you.
like an interesting
Yeah,
thing. So like with usually the classroom, there's like enough activity that it doesn't
right.
bother me. Sometimes, however, like during when kids are taking tests, I do like deliver tissues to kids and tell
Yeah,
them to blow their
They don't always
nose.
use
take it
them.
or you fail.
But like,
It just makes me feel better. Also,
Yeah.
yeah,
like
and actually, as a teacher, I can also tell people that they can't. I say you can't chew gum. If I hear it, you can't chew gum. Like,
That's
you
a
can
good
chew gum as
compromise.
long as I
Okay.
don't notice that you are chewing gum. If you
Yeah.
make it noticeable to me, then you must spit it out.
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm.
I find that the face that Michael makes when he sniffles is triggering. It's kind of just like a meh face,
Mm.
Like it doesn't like it's gonna be hard to explain, but like it doesn't bother him.
Mm.
That he
Oh, it's
and
like-
it just makes me get so mad.
Makes
Like
you angrier.
Ah.
just like
Oh, so it's the expression he makes when you notice that he is triggering you, or is it just
no, just like
just
if he sniffles and I see it, the
Yeah.
face that he's making while he sniffles also triggers me, and the sound.
okay? Because it sounds like he thinks it's normal. I think I know what you're talking about. It's just
Yeah, it's just like the
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sniffling. I'm driving you nuts.
deal with
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, like I don't use earplugs because I find that they block out
Right.
a lot of sound, and then all I focus on is the trigger sound. So, but I do use noise canceling headphones. So like in my, like we have a shared office, so all the teachers in the science department, as well as our office is kind of like chaos. So, so I wear noise canceling headphones, but nobody thinks that that's terribly unusual because it's like kind of chaotic in there.
Right.
There's like one person that hums.
Oh yeah, humming. That's another
humming.
keyboard. I have a coworker who like thunks on her keyboard.
It's not even like bad humming. It's just like I don't know. It just bothers me. And she sniffles. And like one time she was just like talking while eating, and it, like whenever I go into the office, I'm like, oh no. And there's these kids that hang out, and they're sometimes and like they're like talking, and they're exchange students, so they're talking in a different language, but they're like talking and like goofing off and like having a good time and being happy, but it just triggers me. I don't know why. I wish it didn't. I feel so bad. And that reminds me, like when people are like talking and eating at the same time. When we were at the cabin that one time, and we were all playing a game together at the table, and Mom made popcorn, and everyone was like talking and like eating the popcorn and like chewing like loudly, and I like went in the bathroom and like collected myself, and then I came back out, and then I was able to handle it for a little, and like went and hid in the bathroom.
Now we have a popcorn room.
So whenever we're like eating popcorn, like now since they know that I have misophonia, every time we go to the cabin and we're playing a game and we have popcorn, the popcorn's in a room. So when anyone wants like popcorn, they go into the room and then eat the popcorn.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful.
Yeah.
We've made some adjustments.
Yeah. It's sometimes it just doesn't doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I think I was just ranting about my office, but like, in general, I think, I was saying this to Leah, as you get older, I think it's like the worst when you first, at first onset, because like you have so little control over your life when you're in middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school, because you have to be in this room with these people, and you're around a lot of people. I think as you get older, you have a little more control, and it becomes like easier to manage.
You might like isolate yourself, and then become like completely
right. Yeah, the worry is
right.
Yeah. I think this is kind of like a little bit of a turn, but one experience, like one of the, like a big maybe turning point in like my misophonia journey was like as a Buddhist. Sometimes we have like we chant in groups. Sometimes like we chant by ourselves, but we also gather in meetings and chant together. And for whatever reason, there like was this thing that we were going to chant for a really long time, for like hours.
Right.
So I decided I was going to participate in this. And chanting for hours. It was a thing, but I was really chanting about my misophonia, and I had this like imagery of like kind of like ripping it out by the roots. Like taking the misophonia, like ripping it out by the roots, so I would just get rid of it. um, and I don't know, in the whatever hour of chanting, that like image started to change, where instead of like ripping it out, it was this idea of like not not feeding it and allowing it to die and feed the soil, right? Like
Yeah.
nourish my life, feed the soil, rather than like this like violent ripping out.
Oh, that's so
Um,
nice.
and actually, like learning about the research on how this could be some like vestigial thing of self protection and protection of the colony,
Yes.
protection of the community. Um, it
A
made me
throwback to evolutionary kind of
yeah, like that,
sources.
that
Yeah.
like yeah, like it's not just like this it's not just this evil thing, right?
I totally agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
it's like for a purpose.
yeah,
I love that analogy where they were talking about like I would survive so well in a zombie apocalypse because
right.
I would be able to hear them like breathing loudly. Just yeah,
Yeah, we'd be the one with
the dragging footsteps. I hate that.
yeah.
When you drag your heel a little bit, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that like like that ability to sound the alarm. So it really made me like it changed my relationship with
Yeah.
misophonia to not just hate it,
Right.
to sort of see that maybe it is part of who I am, part of like what's made me who I am, and that without it, I uh, like all things that happen to us, they're like we can transform whatever it is. Like there's a saying in Buddhism to change karma into mission. And so like whatever the karma, whatever our karma is, it's not just all bad. It's like for a purpose.
Yeah.
um and so I really feel like the misophonia is not necessarily my enemy. And I loved how like some of the people that you've interviewed have talked about um you know sort of also uh, talking to their like misophonic person, saying like it's okay, I'm not, we're not in danger.
Yeah.
So I do that sometimes, like when
like
I'm
I just take a deep breath and like, why does this bother you? It doesn't have to bother you.
mhm, right, and it helps me not hate it, like, oh, I'm being triggered, but that's not a threat, it's okay.
Right.
And yeah.
It also like whenever like someone's being annoyed by a sound, it's like, haha, that annoys you. It's not me this time. Like the sounds that annoy, like I don't want to say normal people, but like
Oh, right, when
people,
somebody's just being irritated by a
it
sound.
doesn't bother me at all. It's like whatever, but like, and then when they're like, oh, it's the most annoying sound in the world, like, come on, guys.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. Yeah, it's difference between fight or flight and just regular annoyance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
Such an intense like anger that I just like have to cry, like
right,
yeah.
right. Because I think it is like, I think Tracy, you were saying it's tied to something very deep. That is not necessarily like I think you both recognize is acting in good faith. It's not necessarily like a defect, which in our society everything has to be like a medicalized defect that we need to like throw away. But there's something positive about it that may have, whether it evolved over thousands of years or something we were predisposed to that maybe got switched on because as our family life was kind of chaotic or something. There's something I do believe that it's um it's kind of I always kind of like grimace when somebody talks about it as something that's inherently negative, like a defect. So I love that analogy and that the imagery that you just had about the um the roots and replanting the soil,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I think that's where we're at, or at least that's where I'm like, I believe all that now. It's like, how do we transform it out of it, or feed it in a way that it can be used for something more productive.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like
Um,
what?
Right, like what you're doing, and you know, doing this podcast, and
Yeah,
because I think also like it's huge to
just be able to like talk about it for a while.
yeah.
Because like whenever I talk about it like with your friends, they always like shut you down, and like
yeah.
you have to put that emphasis on it, like the feelings that it makes you feel. Like they won't
Mhm.
listen to me unless I tell them like this is gonna make me cry if you don't stop chewing. Like
Mhm.
unless they don't like hear me if I don't put that emphasis on it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Except for like, Emily. She like
Mhm.
Emily and
Mhm.
Alina, they like
they get it.
understand. Like Alina, it's like, she kinda has it.
Mhm.
And then Emily, she just like knows me so well that like
Mhm. Yeah.
she just like understands it.
and sometimes I wonder now if there in this I feel like one of those people who's in this day and age, like we're supposed to just kind of conform to the same reactions to everything. I feel like if this was around, this doesn't just start like a few decades ago. I feel like a long time ago, I think people were, you were not as connected to every single person in the world. So you can kind of be yourself, and you had your kind of role, or you were maybe the sensitive person, you had this talent or that talent. I feel like now we just have to, we're supposed to think and feel the same way, and that's not
Mhm.
helping.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like
So,
we're all supposed to be normal.
right, right.
Yeah.
No, this is great. So we're getting it kind of flew by as it always does. We're about an hour into it. This has been great. We covered a lot of great ground, and I love how we kind of ended on one of my favorite kind of like angles on misophonia. Anything
Yeah.
else you both want to share about your journeys, or what you've thought about?
Um
Not to put you on the spot as I always do with people.
Um, yeah.
oh, just like I was filling out this survey and
Mm-hmm.
it asks like it was talking about like what kind of learner you are,
Mm-hmm.
and or like what mindset, I don't know, something like that. And it asked like would it like change your life dramatically um if there was no music. And I said yes, because not in the way like that you would think, like I love music, but no, it's just like whenever we're in the car it covers up my triggers, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why. Yeah.
Right. We need that.
I always
Yeah.
like look out the window, or like put the window down, and yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my go-to. I don't use earplugs so much because I just need to have something on top.
Like but
Yeah.
at school
Likewise.
like you just like you can't have
Right.
that.
You can't have
Right.
background noise all the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I use earbuds because it like softens all the sounds,
Mhm.
and like I can still kind of hear people most of the time.
Mhm.
Like my friends sometimes like whisper to me during class. I'm just like, uh-huh.
Right. Cool. Well, I mean, yeah, Tracy, this has been great. Like, I can't wait to get this published, and you guys can listen to it on your way to school. But this is
Yeah.
great. Thanks for coming on, and yeah, I know it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank
doing
you
this. I
so
think
much. This
it's
is great.
really, like I'm sure like so many people like myself, like, live their life just thinking they were,
Yeah, like
a
just
little,
like
a little something off with that one.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, right. Thank you again, Tracy and Leah. Fascinating to hear how you've been navigating misophonia within your family. If you like this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. You can hit me up by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or go to the website, misophoniapodcast.com. It's even easier just to send a message on Instagram at Misophonia Podcast. Follow there, or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast, and on Twitter or X, it's Misophonia Show. Support the show by visiting the Patreon at patreon.com/Misophonia Podcast. Theme music, as always, is by Moby. And until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.